But Arnold Palmer was all man. And I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I had to say it. We have women that are highly sophisticated here.
Trump spoke in Latrobe, Pennsylvania over the weekend, the home of Arnold Palmer, and figured he should say nice things about him to cozy up to the crowd. So naturally, he talked about the size of his penis. And if you count all the innuendo in his previous trip to Latrobe, this may not have been the first time genitals were the topic of discussion.
Latrobe, I love Latrobe. It's the home of the great Arnold Palmer, who's looking down now. Arnold Palmer, he was one of the greats, one of the great men. Arnold Palmer became a very good friend of mine in his latter years. And I got to play golf with Arnold. Arnold would hit a drive, and I'd hit a drive. And I might be 3 yards longer. But, you know, he was 83, 84 years old. Don't get carried away. And I looked at Arnold. I said, Arnold, let me ask you a question. Do you think 40, 50 years ago, I was longer than you like I am now? He looked at me. This is before I was president. He said, Donald, let me tell you something. You weren't even close. In fact, if you look at those trees about 100 yards over there, that's where my ball would be, and here you are. I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, in fact, I could build a giant Walmart in between our two balls.
Now, every time he brings up Arnold Palmer, we have to decipher whether he's talking about golf or his package. But for real, he couldn't get his mind off of Arnold Palmer's manliness, even when talking about Secret Service protection.
What kind of a gun is that? They said, Dad, you don't even want to know. They are serious guns. We got more guys, and every one of them is like central casting, too. Holy shit. I'm looking. They look like Arnold Palmer. They look like Arnold. Can't look better than Arnold.
Now, everyone is probably wondering, was he talking about their guns? Or anyway, reporters were looking for ways to relay the speech Trump was giving, but there was no way to avoid the elephant in the shower.
Steve, update us on that rally, what he's been saying.
Well, Trump's campaign telling us that tonight's appearance and this speech that he is giving is the beginning of his closing argument to voters that he is going to deliver over the next couple weeks. And that closing argument began rather interestingly. He started with a long-winded story about Latrobe, Pennsylvania native Arnold Palmer, including, and I'm not making this up, a description of the Hall of Fame golfer in the men's room, in the locker room, and what he looked like in the shower. He then went into a more conversation about how his hair looked and his combing regimens.
You know the old strategy when it comes to presidential campaigns. The more you talk about penises in the final stretch, the more voters trust you on the economy, education, safety, and healthcare. Needless to say, though, Trump's biggest loyalists went on TV to avoid talking about their Christian candidate's preoccupation with Arnold Palmer's junk.
Is this really the closing message you want voters to hear from Donald Trump? Stories about Arnold Palmer's penis?
Well, listen, I think that the headline that I read about the rally in Pennsylvania yesterday was the big question, and it's the one that Kamala Harris has not been able or willing to answer, and that is, are you better off now than you were under the Trump administration 4 years ago? And no one can answer that question with a yes.
I mean, no one. And that's why Kamala Harris herself avoids the question. Look, I've been traveling the country nonstop, Jay. I've been over 230 cities in 40 states right now. And I'm spending these final closing weeks in the swing states, in blue states, in toss-up districts for the House. I'm absolutely convinced. There's an energy out there right now. I'm convinced that we're going to win the White House, the Senate, and the House. And we're going to have a very aggressive agenda to get the economy going again, to help everyone. Look, everywhere I go, Jake, everybody has the same concerns. They're fed up and they're fired up about the cost of living that's unaffordable now, and the rising crime rates everywhere, and the weakness on the world stage, and the wide open border. And they know that Kamala Harris is responsible for those things. And they know that President Trump is offering alternatives. So
put the rhetoric aside, look at the record of these two candidates. This shouldn't be about personalities, it should be about policy. And I think people are looking at that seriously, and that's why I'm convinced we're going to win.
I don't remember Jake Tapper asking the Speaker of the House if he thinks Trump will win. He asked him if he thinks voters want to hear Trump talk about Arnold Palmer's penis as a policy position.
I'm sure that you think that a policy debate would be better than a personality debate, but if President Biden had gone on stage and spoke about the size of a pro golfer's penis, I think you would be on this show right now saying you were shocked and appalled, and you would suggest it was evidence of his cognitive decline. I wonder how Trump's remarks, not just the one about Arnold Palmer, his, quote, manhood, but everything we've heard from Trump this week, how it fits in with the analysis that the New York Times offered a few days ago. They looked at his speeches from 2015 and 2016 and looked at his speeches today and said, quote, with the passage of time, the 78-year-old former president's speeches have grown darker, harsher, longer, angrier, less focused, more profane, and increasingly fixated on the past. I know you want to talk about policy, and I respect that, but the reason that Donald Trump is not up 10 points is because of comments like that one, where people do have concerns about his fitness, his acuity, and his stability. Why is he talking about Arnold Palmer's penis in front of Pennsylvania voters?
Jake, you seem to like that line a lot. Let me tell you that Donald Trump is doing rallies nonstop around the country.
Let me just say something. I don't want to be talking about this. Right. Donald Trump is out there saying it. It is.
But you continue to. Let's talk about.
Because you won't address it.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
You won't address it. He is out there talking to voters.
No, I'll address it. Let me answer it. Okay, don't say it again. We don't have to say it. I get it.
Mike Johnson, who once compared himself to Moses, doesn't want to hear the fact that his boss indulged in a story about someone's penis in front of a rally crowd. He's the same guy that announced he's so pure that he and his son track each other's porn consumption in order to hold each other accountable in case they slip up.
What it is accountability software. So men in a church, men's Bible study groups will do it. That's how it's presented at Promise Keepers. But they also mention, hey, when your kids become teenagers, especially if you have boys, dads, they're talking to the guys at this event, you might want to think about doing this with your sons. And so we've been doing that. And so what it does real simply is it has an algorithm and software. It's way above my head how it works, but it scans. You obviously opt into it, but it scans all the activity on your phone or your devices, your laptop, tablet, what have you. We do all of it. And then it sends a report to your accountability partner. So my accountability partner right now is Jack, my son, right? And so he's 17. So he and I get a report of all the things that are on our phones or all of our devices once a week. If anything objectionable comes up, your accountability partner gets an immediate notice. And it's really, really sensitive. It'll pick up almost anything. It looks for keywords, search terms, and also images. And it will send your accountability partner a blurred picture of the image. And so on occasion, I get one. I was just looking at the one from this week. I got on Jack, and it said, this is the only one that may be questionable, and it's this blurred image of two women talking in a live screen thing, and I zoom in and I have to unblur it, and it's two middle-aged teachers.
That guy, who feels he needs to share porn accountability with his son, didn't want his ears to be assaulted any further by what his man of God candidate kept saying about Arnold Palmer. But he still wouldn't answer the damn question.
There's lines in a rally. When President Trump is at a rally, sometimes he'll speak for 2 straight hours. You're questioning his stamina, his mental acuity. Joe Biden couldn't do that for 5 minutes. That's how you started this segment. You said, what if Biden was in a rally like that? He couldn't fill the room. Donald Trump does. You know why? Because they see him as a change agent, and they understand he has a record of performance. In his first administration, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world, Jake, not just the U.S. Everybody's wages were going up. Everybody had more jobs available to them. The pathway out of poverty was widened for more people, and that's what the American people are looking at. They want to change, and that's what they see in Donald Trump. So he has fun at the rallies. He says things that are off the cuff. But I'm telling you, I've been in those events. I've been in those arenas, and people have a great time at those arenas. So you can cherry pick a few words or lines out of a 2-hour event. We could do that with Kamala Harris after a 20-minute event because she does word salads, and she couldn't hold court like that without a teleprompter. We all know that. These are the facts. The American people see it. And, the media can pick it apart, but people are going to vote. They're going to vote what's best for their family, and they see that in Trump.
So, according to Mike Johnson, it's fun for MAGA to discuss a deceased golfer's penis at a rally for a presidential candidate because he speaks for 2 hours and people have a ball when he does. So, I guess the answer is yes. Mike Johnson does think voters want to hear about penises as a closing argument for Trump's campaign. You know what? I think it's about time we stop taking comical answers and deflections from these guys as acceptable answers to Trump's behavior. Everything this party rails against as indecent and ungodly is just lighthearted and off the cuff when their guy embodies it. And for some reason, that hypocrisy isn't called out every time.
After our interview, Donald Trump flew to Pennsylvania, Arnold Palmer's hotel, where he discussed the golfer's signs of his manhood, dismissed Kamala Harris with a curse word and asked the old Reagan question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? The vice president was in Atlanta, where she made the case for abortion rights, said Trump lacked compassion, and was joined by the family of a Georgia woman who died because she didn't receive proper medical care due to abortion restrictions.
Johnson said people are going to vote what's best for their family, which in his mind is discussions about penis size and using empty and profane language to attack your political opponent. Sadly, Mike Johnson is a fake Christian that sold his soul to a guy that his Bible warned him about.
Kamala Harris, that you've had enough, that you just can't take it anymore. We can't stand you. You're a vice president. The worst. You're the worst vice president. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired. Get out of here. Get the hell out of here, Kamala.